Hello, everyone. Welcome to the GEF Pavilion. Great pleasure to have you. I just want to say that we're waiting for one of our panelists. She's a co-chair of one of the contact groups. So we will start in 5 minutes. I apologize, but we're doing very important work here. So I really thank you for your understanding. Thank you. Yes. Lisa, please ask him for me to have sound here. Ah, okay, great. So, bem-vindos, bem-vindos, welcome everybody. We still do not have our panelists. She's really held at this contact group, but we're gonna start, okay? So because people have, so welcome to the GEF Pavilion. Pleasure to have you all here today with us in this, event for our beloved Amazon Sustainable Landscapes Program. It's so great that we're having this here at this COP. The Amazon is so central to all that we are discussing here. No, the largest tropical forest in the planet, with all the incredible biodiversity that we have that, but also, very importantly, the Amazon represents the joint, and the crucial points of biodiversity and climate change, because the Amazon really matters for climate change. We cannot reach 1.5 degrees without the Amazon, and particularly with the rates of transformation, deforestation that we are having throughout the basin. But I'm very glad to have you out today because we are also talking about good news, good things, and the local efforts that we have. And for me particularly, that have been involved personally with the region for such a long time, it's a pleasure. My name is Adriana Moreira. I'm currently the regional coordinator for GEF for Latin America. I have been with the GEF for 2 years, but with the World Bank for over 20 years, working in the region. And today, we're going to talk to you about this incredible program that we built together, the Amazon Sustainable Landscapes Program, connecting people, landscapes, and institutions to conserve biodiversity and to also conserve this incredible, amazing resource that we have for people and planet. I have the pleasure to have with us today, a distinguished group of panelists. I'm very glad that we were discussing, just joking before now, we have a strong group of women, the Amazonas, no, the women warriors, the legendary women warriors for the Amazon, but also we have, for gendered balance, one guy. Laura, so good to have you. Welcome. So the panel is gonna be divided in 2 parts. First, we're gonna start with an igniting talk for our dear friend Valerie Hickey from the World Bank. Come here, Valerie. My former boss. So good to have you.
Thank you, Adriana, and we miss you every day, but we're glad that we lost you to the GEF and not to anywhere else.
Valerie is the Global Director for Environment, and she'll get us started. Thank you so much. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you, Adriana. The honor is mine, and I'm going to be very short because we want to hear from the people actually doing the work. But I do want to recognize for everybody that we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the work that people have been doing in the Amazon. And by people, I don't just mean the NGOs. I certainly don't mean the World Bank or the GEF. I don't even just mean the governments. I also mean the indigenous peoples and local communities who are the engine that make sure that all of our work works and has results. And it's so critically important. And we're so thankful to the support of the GEF to have been able to help coordinate all of the work in the Amazon through the Amazon Sustainable Landscapes Program. And my colleague Paul is going to stand up. He's going to give you a sense of exactly what that includes. But for us, there's 4 pillars that we've learned from working in the Amazon that we now take with us to work on biodiversity and climate everywhere. The first pillar is the importance of planning. We have to make sure that we're aligning what everybody is doing, that what everybody is doing is planned, both in terms of the landscape and doing landscape planning, but in terms of policy planning, donor planning. Some of the work we've been able to do, for example, with the Moreira Foundation as part of the Amazon Sustainable Landscapes, has really helped us identify how much money is being spent on the Amazon and where to do what. Where are the redundancies, where there's too much money in one spot? Where are the places where nobody's putting any money? So this sort of planning and alignment is critical. The second pillar, of course, the one we're all familiar with, is the importance of actually protecting the natural capital, protecting the Amazon, and the amazing biodiversity and the incredibly important carbon stocks it holds. This is everything from making sure policies allow it to be saved and protected. It's making sure that the institutions that are charged with protecting the Amazon are strong and robust and have the infrastructure they need to do it. That includes the digital infrastructure, making sure they can see what's happening in an area the size of the Amazon. You can't have rangers who can eyeball what's going on. You need to use satellites, so that IT infrastructure is key. So that's the second pillar, making sure we are supporting, protecting the actual asset. The third, and this is important, it's why I'm so interested to hear about what Natura is doing, is how do we build and diversify businesses in the Amazon? Because at the end of the day, the reason the World Bank is interested in the Amazon, yes, it's because of biodiversity. Yes, it's because of climate change, but it's also because of poverty. The Amazon is one of the worst examples in the world of the poorest people living with the richest natural capital. There's something wrong with that. We're asking some of the poorest people on the planet to protect the most important and richest natural capital, and we're asking them to do it for free. Not only are we asking them to do it for free, we're asking them to do it sometimes at the risk of their actual life. That's not okay. So we have to be able to build and diversify businesses that will create a pathway out of poverty for the people we ask to protect the Amazon. Do it in a way that's sustainable, but we have to do it. And then finally, the fourth pillar is making sure we're sharing the benefits. There are always going to be communities in the Amazon who can't build businesses around natural capital. They're too isolated, they're too far away. We need to make sure that they also have a path out of poverty, that they can live the lives they choose to live. They will continue protecting the Amazon, and we as a community will pay them to do it. We will make sure they can live lives of dignity and fulfillment without necessarily needing business to do it, without having to make those hard trade-offs between leaving the forest standing, leaving the river unpolluted, or going hungry. We need to make sure they're protected. And that's been the ASL approach, and it's an approach we're taking with us beyond the Amazon, globally, to all the landscapes and seascapes in which we work, underpinned by country ownership, because the Amazon's the best example of an agenda that is led by country governments at the national and subnational level, and by community organizations. This isn't a foreign agenda put on the Amazon. This is the Amazon countries' and communities' own agenda that we are there to support them with. And it's built around harmonizing knowledge, making sure there's a contagion of good ideas, so that when something works, let's make sure everybody knows it and can scale it up. When something doesn't work, let's figure out why and let's fix it. So again, a huge thank you to the GEF for supporting us to do this. Huge thank you to the countries, to the communities. And I'm going to hand over to Paul, I believe Adriana, who's going to get into more detail on this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Valerie. Do you want to sit here with us? Take a seat over there. The last one. I now have the pleasure to introduce our gender balance. Paul Martin. Paul is the lead. Yes, please. The lead natural resource management specialist for Latin America at the bank. And Paul will give us a presentation on the Amazon Sustainable Landscapes Program. Paul, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Adriana. It's an honor to be the gender balance in such a prestigious community here. I don't know, should I stand? Maybe I'll stand, I'll move around a bit. Yes. So I'm just going to say a few words about the Amazon Sustainable Landscapes Program, so we're all on the same page. And then I'm going to hand over to the Amazons of the Amazon for the interesting discussion that will come up. So I have this clicker here. I think actually all it does is tell Pasquale when to move. There we go. Did anything happen? There we go. I think I have to point it down there. All right. So let me give you a quick overview of the program. So this has gone through two phases. And the first phase started back in 2018. And it included these country programs. There are 5 country programs, Brazil, 2 in Colombia, 1 in Peru, and importantly, this regional coordination project. So the initial phase of financing was for almost $125 million. And since then, there's a wide range of partners involved in it, and you can see here the wide range of partners involved. We'll move on to the second phase. Let's see if this can work. So the second phase brought in more countries. So now there are 7 countries involved in the program, but still with this overarching regional coordination part to it, which aims to make sure there is knowledge shared, best practices shared between all the programs. So now we have these 7 countries, Bolivia, Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, Guyana, Peru, Suriname, involved in the overall program. And I should say that now with GEF 8 coming on board, we're looking at the Amazon Impact Program and the next phase, which hopefully will provide an important framework for implementation of the Global Biodiversity Framework, which is being discussed here. And we're looking forward to supporting implementation of the next phase of the ASL. So a quick word or two about the objective and rationale that binds the program together. There are 3 main aspects to the program, plus the coordination and capacity building that binds it all together. First of all, there's the strengthening of protection of the protected landscapes, including indigenous lands, Ramsar sites, and other conservation areas. On top of that, and outside the protected areas, there's support for sustainable production in sustainable production landscapes, including agriculture, forests, and freshwater habitats. There's a third element to the program, which is strengthening the policies and incentives for conservation, which means that where the program is active, it's not simply in the geographic areas, but also more broadly economy-wide impacts. And then we have, as I've mentioned, the capacity building and regional coordination, which brings all these elements together and makes sure there's lessons learned, experience shared between the countries to build a common approach to sustainability in the Amazon. Okay, here's the map, and here's some headline figures for you. So for the protected areas, about 87 million hectares have come under improved management of the protected areas. And 4.5 million hectares of new protected areas have been created. So this gives us a large area, which is approximately equivalent to the size of Venezuela, which is now under improved protected area management. In addition, where sustainable practices have been promoted, we're talking about another 3.7 million hectares. And there's restoration activities as well on degraded lands, which goes up to about 48,000 hectares. The direct beneficiaries, about 60,000. But this is where it's important to recognize that there's many, many more indirect beneficiaries from the learning that comes through this process, particularly on sustainable land management, sustainable practices. So the total number of indirect beneficiaries is much higher. And I would say on this that one example would be the work done in Colombia on the guidelines for green roads under the policies and the policies and institutions component, which means that there are many more people benefiting from the program than simply the direct beneficiaries. There's also been an emphasis on sustainable finance for protected areas with the programs in Peru and Colombia in particular, an important outcome. Just a quick word on the regional coordination part of it. So this looks at coordination, knowledge management, and particularly monitoring and evaluation. The program steering committee includes a wide variety of agencies and representatives of indigenous groups and community groups as well. It aims at building capacity and collaboration between both government agencies, community groups, NGOs, civil society, and the private sector towards conservation and sustainable development. And I think that is my last slide. Thank you very much. So there's a quick overview, and now we hand back to the Amazons.
Thank you. Okay. We have the opportunity now to ask some questions to Valerie and Paul about the program before we move into our panel of the Amazonas. Any questions someone want to ask? Please introduce yourselves and ask your question. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Hugo Rosa from CDP Worldwide. I have a question regarding the regional coordination of the program. Did you find any challenges in working with the different governments of the different countries while implementing this program? Because you have sort of disparate political orientations of the governments in the region, and I'm curious to see how this regional coordinator handled these differences.
So thank you. It's a wonderful question. And I think the strength of the ASL is that it's not political. There is a political coordination mechanism, ACTO, in the Amazon that deals with the governments at the political level and political decision making. The ASL is a technical coordination body. So we work with the ministries of environment, and those have an extremely strong coordination history. And they have a very strong muscle for coordinating amongst themselves anyway. And that's what's key. And that's why this has been so powerful, because this isn't a mechanism to make decisions about the Amazon. It's a mechanism to identify good practice, to make sure that we can align investments, particularly international public investments, so from the GEF, from the bank's own funding, from philanthropies like Moore. But it is not a political instrument. So we have seen no difference. Governments come and go. That's fine. We know that. That's the reality of life. But the coordinating body and the relationship and the camaraderie among the ministries that are involved and among the technical group that are involved has stayed strong regardless of who's in charge back home in capitals.
And if I may add, like from the perspectives of both, the practitioner and the GEF and the coordinator for LAC, I think one of the important aspects of the ASL is that this community of governments, researchers, NGOs, and international philanthropic organizations have been put together since the beginning of the program. So the program framework was developed together. It takes much more effort than bringing something ready and then just trying to implement, but it creates such an ownership that this program has become a flagship for the GEF for this, integrated approach, kind of bottom-up since its inception.
I was just going to make a similar comment about the longevity of the program, the fact that it's been underway since 2018. It's 15, and that is led to a build-up of trust between the technical level within the national governments and also with the other agencies involved, that over the years has developed so that there's a shared understanding, at least at that level.
More questions? Do you have time for one more question? Two?
Everybody wants to hear from the real people doing
Yes.
the real work. And it is the strength of the ASL, is that this is country owned and it is led, owned and operated, created and implemented by governments, and the communities in the Amazon. That's what matters, and that's a story we need to share with all of the other landscapes and all of the other seascapes.
Thank you so much. We have a question for our... No, it's a question from Carlos Manuel.
Yeah, so I'm going to read directly from his question. He says, the Brazilian delegate in the resource mobilization negotiations says the GEF has no possibilities to impact at scales. Seems that this IP has an impact at the landscape levels. Comments by panelists. That's the question.
So let me say this, and thank you, Carlos Manuel. And I've had the honor of working with Carlos Manuel on resource mobilization and learning with him for the last 15 years. So just think about this. I'm going to take it beyond the Amazon for a moment. Thanks to the GEF, just last year, so between July 1, 2021 and June 30th, 2022, the World Bank invested $2.5 billion in biodiversity globally. $2.5 billion in 1 year. We were able to do that because of the GEF, because we had over $100 million in GEF projects that we used to build a pipeline of shovel-ready projects that governments would then borrow at scale for. We were able to unlock $2.5 billion because we used the GEF money to buy down the cost of capital. So when a government has to decide, will they borrow for biodiversity or will they borrow for roads? If the price of borrowing is the same, they're probably going to borrow for roads because they have a strong transport authority, they know the return on investment in roads. But they will borrow for biodiversity if we can reduce the price of that loan, and it's thanks to the GEF that we can. So I've been saying this in every event I've joined. We think the GEF is an incredibly important anchor element of the financial architecture for biodiversity. We need it. We need a stronger GEF. It was a fantastic replenishment that they've just finished. We want it to keep growing, and we're a huge partner, supporter, and advocate of the GEF. We do not need more financial fragmentation in this space. We need more alignment, more harmonization. And yes, nothing is perfect, but we have seen the success. $100 million in GEF financing, unlocking $2.5 billion in World Bank financing for biodiversity. That's scale. So the GEF does it, it has done it, and it can do it more.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Valerie. Thank you, Paul. Thank you so much. It was great. Let's move on to the second part. A big applause for our... Thank you. So, I need the microphones back. Okay. Out of here. So I introduce our next round of... now we're going to have a panel, a discussion panel. I have the pleasure to introduce Ms. Laura Bermudez, who is representing here the government of Colombia. Please come, Laura. Great to have. Laura is our big leader in the program here, and she was chairing a contact group and been working day and night here for us to have a great agreement. So I want to thank you, Laura, personally, for all your work for biodiversity globally, and particularly for leading us in Colombia through the International Office of the Ministry of Environment. Thank you so much. Big applause to Laura. Now I have the pleasure to introduce Ms. Denise Hills. Denise is the Global Director, Denise, for Natura company. Natura is one of the largest cosmetics and well-being companies in the world. And we have a strong partnership with Natura within the Amazon program. Denise has more than 30 years of experience in the financial sector with the bank, one of the largest commercial banks in Brazil. Pleasure to have you with us today, Denise. And now I want to introduce the third Amazonan woman, Fernanda Marques. Please, Fernanda. Fernanda is the portfolio manager at FUNBIO. FUNBIO is the largest biodiversity fund in Latin America, I would say, handling over $500 million in resources, and with strong partnerships and long-term financing for biodiversity. I have to remind that FUNBIO was created with a GEF grant through the World Bank as the implementing agency. So, and now FUNBIO became an implementing agency of the GEF, so it's a whole trajectory that we have. And I'm very proud, and I think it's been a great achievement of the GEF with the creation of these conservation trust funds throughout Latin America, that today our institutions, FUNBIO just reached the 26 years milestone. So actually the GEF contributing to creating institutions locally that contributed to biodiversity conservation. Carlos Manuel, that's another very big impact with all these institutions channeling money to biodiversity. So we're going to hear from this panel. I have specific questions for them. I want to start with Laura. please, for the role of the government. And particularly, we had a previous question in the previous panel about not only the relationship amongst the governments in the program, but also, the transboundary challenges and how to harmonize policy and plans among Amazonian countries to facilitate this collaboration and also to address the threats that we have to biodiversity in the region. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Adriana, for the invitation, and thank you, Carlos Manuel, and all the team from the GEF, and of course, the team from the World Bank. We will be having a pleasure to work with you in these almost 10 years, I guess. So, and thank you for everybody to be here. I have many faces from the friends. So it's for me, it's a pleasure to talk with you. So, in reference to the relation between Colombia and the other countries in the region, I need to say that the Amazon is connected. So we have people, we have rivers, we have species, we have cultures, indigenous people and local communities living there. So it's like a one big family, and that's a very good starting point. And as you said, not only under this ISL program, but also with other programs before. We have the ACTO and other spaces that we have been working together at the different levels. Because and I have here the big representation of the technicians at the ground level that working with the people in the ground level, and that people is working together with the other countries. And also in the political level, we have very strong ties. And of course, we know that we have many conflicts, many challenges. We have very important issues, illegal activities, deforestation, and everything at the region. And we know that we need to have a very strong strategy, common strategy between us, because we cannot act alone. We are a region. We have 8 countries in the first phase of our ASL program. We have only three of us. We was Brazil, Peru, and Colombia, as you said. But now in the second phase, we also have the other countries. We are 7 right now, and hopefully in the next GEF 8 we will be complete, including Venezuela. So definitely we need to work together at the technical level, but also at the political level. And that's why we have been working a lot in different spaces. And of course, ASL has been the opportunity to explore other issues to work together. And that's why we, in the context of GEF 7, we formulate another project with the World Bank also, and with WCS as an executing agency. For the Putumayo is a river basin, and we want to address there very important issues about contamination, pollution of the waters, because Amazon is not only the forest. Amazon is, of course, the water. And we have water on the ground, and we have water on the sky. So we need to work together with everybody and taking into account all of the dimensions in the Amazon in order to get the best solutions integrated to our big challenges. So this is a very good opportunity to working together, to continue to working together, and we hopefully will do. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura, and this amazing this continue, long-term investment in engagement. I think it's also a strong suit of the program. We are now, getting into the third phase. So happy and so proud of that, with GEF 8. Denise, the new buzzword for the Amazon is bioeconomy. Everywhere we go, we hear about bioeconomy. And Natura has been one of the pioneers, not only in ESG, you part of the global compound, no? Very proud of that also. But could you share with us what, in your knowledge or your understanding, what are the opportunities you see for regional cooperation to support value chains in the Amazon, in particularly the role of the private sector, fostering and strengthening these value chains, and how do we build this bioeconomy that's, maintain the standing forests, but also bring jobs, income, and well-being for the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Adriana. It's an amazing opportunity, like being representing Natura, which is, I don't know if many of you know, we are a cosmetic company. We are part of a group that has like probably more famous company that all of you know, Natura, The Body Shop, Avon, and Aesop, which is an Australian company. We are now operating more than 110 countries. And Amazon is for us, especially for Natura. Natura has the same age as me, and 50 and almost some years. And we start as a company, a relationship into the Amazon 20 years ago. And that's why we are here explaining that Amazon for us, it's more than an opportunity. It's an opportunity to operate as a regenerative businesses, as a, in some of the ways, in an enabling conditions company, which has a long-term experience in terms of how could we operate in a so critical landscape, in a so critical biome, essential for fighting against climate change. It's not possible to solve the critical keys of climate change without considering businesses and a very special business model into the Amazon. And that's why I know, and I would like to tell about the Natura experience. We have more than 60% of the whole supply chain comes from the Amazon. We have more than 1,000 products, and all of them are made with some ingredients for the Amazon. One of the most famous line from Natura brand, Eco's line, it's a line of products that comes from the Amazon and that brings the Amazon into the perspective of the whole consumers. So what it means, in fact, we are now, we have a relationship, and that's the way that we approach our value chain. We have a relationship with more than 805 families into the Amazon. Is a totally different way to approach a supply chain. It's a long-term relationship that starts developing this relationship with this kind of the communities, and they are supplying our BAU activities. And we consider this relationship with more, if we are looking to the whole Amazon, we start with Brazil, but we now developing relationship in Ecuador, Peru, Colombia, and this is one of the main points of my speech here. I'll address after. The ability of having like collaboration to expand the connections between countries, because if you are looking to the Amazon, it's not a kind of like the Brazilian Amazon, the Venezuelan Amazon, the Colombian Amazon. It's a country in terms of more than 30 million people lives into the Amazon. And when we look to the forest, in some of the ways people forget that are people over there. If you look for the people that are, as Adriana mentioned, restoring and preserving and conserving the forest, like 5% of the whole population in the world are responsible for more than 85% of the whole preservation in forests around the world. And how could we, as a business, maintain and invest and regenerate and progress without these communities and generate a business that it's allowing us in a restoration of an ecosystem like this. So today Natura has 41 bioingredients that comes from the Amazon, local biodiversity. This biodiversity brings to us an innovative approach, like connecting innovation to traditional knowledge, and a relationship with these communities allows us to develop in the last 20 years more than 41 ingredients. So now, as part of the Natura & Co group, our goal is public. We are committing restore and preserve more than 3 million hectares of the forest until 2030, has a relationship with more than 43 communities. We are now in 41. We are committed and have more than 55 ingredients, and bring our business in as a path, as a real influence in how to deal with deforestation. We are committed with zero deforestation until 2025. So zero deforestation as part of a company is not seems like a commitment of a company. I cannot myself lead or deal with this or solve this kind of problem, but we can influence. I'll use this for engage many of you into the Amazon in an inspiration, a bad one, but it's an inspiration. We launch a portal that calls Plenamata that we use to engage more people into the Amazon. Until the beginning of this conversation, until the end of this conversation, from the beginning to the end, can you imagine, guys, that 100,000 trees will be falling into the Amazon? Can you imagine, an hour and a half, more than 100,000 trees will fall in the Amazon? And that's why I truly believe that the importance of having like business like this, that looks to the landscape, looks to the traditional communities, look to the opportunity that we have in Amazon, and bring a completely different in terms of fair trade, in terms of understanding of biodiversity, the understanding of the opportunity that we have to bring the connection like this, money, investments, technology, in order to promote a bioeconomy with a social impact that generates a completely new business model into one of the most important ecosystems that we have in Earth. That's why I truly believe that Natura is a good example. We are now truly believing in a partnership to scale up this kind of thinking, this kind of model, through connections like GF, through connections like partnership with many governments, because together we represent a way to approach, as a businesses, one of the most important problems that we have to solve. But we need a little bit more. So in experience of Natura, now we are a part of the BRIC group. We see ourselves as example of the business for nature could be a reality, could be a technology, could be an important way of thinking, but we see ourselves as an enabling condition company that allows investments in connecting people, nature, in terms of businesses that promotes a generation of capital, an evolution, but an example of a bioeconomy of standing forest. So this is the history of Natura. I don't know if many of you know, but I invite all of you to know more about the Amazon, more about Plenamata, which is a platform that monitors the deforestation into the Amazon, and engage yourselves in bringing this kind of business to a common life, to a decision that we have in a common life.
Thank you so much, Denise. This is amazing. And, you know, I had the opportunity to visit some of the areas that you are working and to see the strong investments made on the, particularly increasing and strengthening the local community associations, cooperatives, generating jobs and incomes locally. And also your work also in supporting this community in the access to health and education. This is in very remote areas, such as the Juruá Valley, areas very hard to reach. No, so this is a really very interesting model for the partnerships we're discussing within the Amazon Sustainable Landscapes Program. Now I want to turn to Fernanda from FUNBIO. Fernanda, you have your hands-on everyday management of all this incredible portfolio of projects in the region. But I want you to share with us, particularly from one very important aspect of the Brazil project. That's the Amazon Region Protected Areas Program, the ARPA, that we are this year celebrating 20 years. This is the single largest tropical forest conservation program in the world. Has been also started with the GEF, and the GEF remains partner of the program. So we want to hear a little bit about what are the lessons learned from this long term. How do you build a program that lasts so long and has so much impact? No, we currently have 120 protected areas under ARPA, 63.5 million hectares. This is an area larger than France and Germany put together under sustainable management. And many of these areas incorporate communities. In only one of the areas that we visit this year for the 20-year celebration, there were 15,000 indigenous peoples and local communities inhabiting one single of these protected areas. So it's really an impressive, and FUNBIO has been the steward of all this effort. Please share with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adriana. Thank you, the GF, for the invitation to be here among great company. ARPA was the creation of a visionary, a crazy group of people 20 years ago. And really, I'm going to have to borrow a few words from Valerie. I think you almost gave a spoiler of some of the things I was going to say. But the ARPA-supported protected areas, they provide anchors to the integrated landscape approach of the ASL. So over 20 years, we've had the opportunity to work on these areas and bring them to a level of maturity. We're talking about that earlier as well, that you talked, Adriana, about FUNBIO going full circle, starting as a GEF project, and now becoming a GEF agency. It's the same thing with ARPA as well. We started supporting the creation of protected areas and then progress in the consolidation of those areas until they reach, they're consolidated and it can then maintain them. And that brings a whole world of opportunities that we'll discuss a little bit later on, but that match very nicely, for instance, initiatives that Natura is carrying on in the Amazon. One important aspect as well, thinking in terms of Valerie's words, I can think of it, your spoiler. We have, I think, two main lessons learned from a design point of view. And the first is governance. And I think, having a strong governance with a very participatory, transparent, that enable ARPA to, go relatively stable and with little impact over the last 20 years from the various changes in federal, state governments over time. So that really has been a key aspect of the program. And the second design-based, I think, lesson learned that has been key to the success of the program is planning. It's a very objective, clear planning that is based on a clear set of, again, objective and measurable, quantifiable targets. We're talking about a long-term program, so we need to make sure that you don't steer away from course, that you keep on heading in the directions to achieve the results that you need and that you proposed to from the beginning. So planning has been a key aspect of that. On the other side, 120 protected areas spread over 60 million hectares in the Brazilian Amazon. That's quite a challenge. So getting resources to go on the ground where they need to be, that's not an easy task, especially when you have oftentimes challenging logistics. So one of the lessons learned from FUNBIO over the past 20 years is the constant need to innovate, to be thinking in terms of operational mechanisms to make sure that those resources get on the ground. And so we're always rethinking the hows, how we can do things better, quicker, more efficiently, and this is an ongoing process. The other aspect also related to the operational aspect is, again, we're talking about a long-term program. Things change. The world has changed. Over, I think, 20 years ago, conditions changed, people have changed, protected area management strategies changed, technology changed. So with that, we have opportunities. So ARPA has to be based on an adaptive management approach to try to incorporate and reflect those changes in its day-to-day operation and support to the protected areas. When I say it like that, it might sound like easy. No, this is an ongoing challenge, and many of those evolutions we're still battling with and struggling with, to thinking, how are we going to take that on board to make sure that we can do that. But anyway, that's also the charm of it. The challenge is always good to be challenged. One aspect that I wanted to point out is that Natura was also a supporter of ARPA from the beginning. It was among the first believers and donors in the vision of establishing such a large network of protected areas in the Brazilian Amazon. So we're together, we've been together since the beginning, exactly.
And I have to say that even, there's almost like the little region that could, because we actually changed a few, in this creativity, changed a few bank procurement policies when exposing the difficulties in the Amazon, and then have been mainstreamed into the World Bank, So another big impact for a small GEF project. So now we're going to have a final round of questions with our interesting panel, but also we're going to open for questions for the audience. And afterwards, please, people are here for us to talk and discuss with you, share. Laura, the ISL, the Sustainable Landscapes Program, provides a platform for the Amazon government, as you mentioned in the beginning. And how do this have been helpful for Colombia? Do you think this is something that have supported you? And what could you tell us, for us, when we're thinking about the next phase? How can we improve? How can you really to have more impact, to scale up this impact that the program has had so far? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Adriana, and thank you to my colleagues, because I am very happy and very honored to be here. You have a very, very good, the three of you, very important experience in the Amazon. And I want to emphasize in one thing that you have said about the challenges, the enormous logistic challenges, and we have here the coordination unit and some people who has been working very hard at the ground level, trying to understand how we can do the things better, effectively, easier, and try to comply with the World Bank politics and GEF politics and procedures, which is a very, very challenging task. But we are doing that. We are doing it. And in relation with the question, Adriana, this is one of the things that we want to share with the other countries. We just realized in the last GEF8 workshop, trying to see what are the opportunities for the next phase of this program. The countries wants to know how we are doing in Colombia with that kind of issues related with the logistics, trying to take the investments to the ground, because we can have consultants, we can have analysis studies, but we really need to see the investments at the ground level. And that is related with how the people, how the indigenous people, local communities, local authorities, national natural parks, and other relevant stakeholders are absorbing the investment, and they are translating that to the real actions in order to face the big challenges and make the solutions, the creative solutions for that. So we have been taking advantage a lot about this platform. We have been making exchanges of lessons learned and good experiences and bad experiences also through the different platforms. At the beginning, in the real time, going to the ground, but when the COVID pandemic, we need to identify another ways to make these exchanges and talk to the other people in the different countries. So the virtual, the physical meetings, and the different scenarios that we can that we have been working has been very important to support the relations between not only the public people in the institution, but also with the civil, CSO, and also with the communities. Which is a very big challenge also, because we in some cases we need to take for example the internet and the facilities, the technology facilities, to the ground. We also want to share that we had the recently exchange between lawmakers in the Colombia, lawmakers from Colombia, Brazil, and Peru. They went to the Putumayo and see some examples that we are doing at the ground level with the ASL and other investments, trying to make the things better in the Amazon. And that was a very important thing, because we need to reach not only the people at the regional and local level, but also the people in the Congress, in the other places from the government. And also, we did a very interesting publication about the women's and how the different kind of women's, the community women's, are in the different countries. So we did a very interesting research identifying women's at the ground level and trying to understand their stories and their challenges also. And this is a very important process, because that has inspired us and inspired others to work for the Amazon with that vision of the gender balance and everything. And finally, we understand that the next phase of the ASL program needs to be improved in this kind of platform, because this is a very important component of that kind of project. We need to have the different opportunities to talk with each other, to make the changes about how we are doing at the ground level. So that will be a very important issue. We also are thinking more beyond the workshops or beyond the meetings. We want to have, for example, experts from one country going to another country, 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, trying to understand how we can create innovative solutions for different challenges. For example, we want to be, we have a very important example with Natura and the Sinchi Research Institute. They have been working together, and probably and hopefully we will have some of the experts from the Sinchi going deep into the Natura. And okay, thank you. Yeah, that will be very nice. And of course, we need to learn a lot from each other. So each country has different expertise, different lessons learned, and we need to continue learn from each other. So this is a very important key element in this program. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Laura. We certainly have projected substantial resources for the coordination grant, for the continue with this platform. The World Bank is the leading agency for the third phase, and I think this is going to be very much taken to heart to everybody joining in the design of the next phase. Denise, please, we want to continue here for you, particularly about your, when you mention more about the commercial agreements that you do with the local communities in the Amazon and the and on the value chains that allow for these communities in this collaborative approach. But I'm also very happy to learn that you are already engaged with Sinchi, and this is extraordinary, one of the side effects, let's say, good side effects of the ASL and bringing people together and institutions together, and then we're generating all this knowledge and impact. Please.
Thank you, Adriana, again. I truly believe, I'd like to start, I promise I will mention collaboration as one of the essential part of the scale up of the challenge that we have in facing in biomas like Amazon. But in my perspective, I would like to mention some important things that we are discussing now, including in terms of the CDB. We think in some of the ways that nature is a problem to solve. Nature, in fact, is the solution. And people that has the long-term value, and people that know how to deal, how to live in this ambience, are the technology, the innovation. The future is ancestral. In some of the ways we have this kind of technology, the ability that we have in a collaborative way to propose a better scale up, a better development for the future is, for me, the challenge that we have ahead. How companies could bring the business technology, partnership, collaboration in order to develop a value chain that allows us to enhance the economy, to enhance the development, protect the nature, in some of the ways, consider the nature part of not of the challenge, but part of the opportunity that we have ahead. I hate the idea of thinking about nature as a problem. Everything comes from nature. We are nature. And nature has to be an essential part of what we are doing as a businesses. So biodiversity convention, it's more about this, to understand and to put nature into part of their businesses. So our business model, it's purchasing of social biodiversity assets, value. That comes from directly for families and clearly translates how business decisions can increase value generation for people and for the planet. As of the examples that we give, one of the most famous that we have is from, for example, Cuba. Cuba was a seed that has an important value that we discover looking through the traditional knowledge of the use of the seed, and we connected with the community in order to develop the value chain. You have to invest first, you have to collaborative, include, establish a long-term relationship. We have to consider things like fair trade. For example, we are committed with this community, and we use UEBT, which is the Union of Ethical Biotrade, to ensure traceability. Traceability is one of the way of guarantee that product comes from a fair trade that includes not only natural and biodiversity impact or traceability, but the guarantee of human rights in terms of the value chain. So since 2006, Natura has the biodiversity chain verification. And because of it, because we are developing like a research in terms of R&D research in terms of Cuba, we have like, as I mentioned, 41 ingredients. Now we have a community that, when we purchase these seeds, we are developing the economy for this community. We are protecting one of the most important species into the Amazon. Ukuba was in the, I don't know the correct word in English. I'm trying to figure out.
There is no translation for Ukuba.
Oh yes, but when you say that the tree was considered extinct
Yes.
by IBAMA, which is one of the references in Brazil. And because of this kind of investments, now we have a whole value chain. The tree comes out for the extinction phase, develop a remain process that brings to the forest a conservation and regeneration. The tree was selling to made like pellets by 10 reais, and now we have only purchasing the seeds and investments and gains for the community around 100 reais per year per each tree. And when we look for the nature as an opportunity to develop an incredible cosmetic company like we have, as part of the solution that the nature has, you have an opportunity to see the nature as an environment, not an environmental and social challenge, but an environmental and social opportunity, because nature comes for us as an opportunity. I love the idea of having not only Amazonas and Amazonian people which like us, but I love the idea of having like a company that has nature in the name, because it's our purpose. So when we have like new raw materials, when we have establishing of a long-term relationship, when we share benefits, when we are able to partnership with the communities in order to support them, with many of you into the development, establishing a long-term relationship, we have a business that address nature, not only in their business, but address business as part of a preservation, restoration, conservation, and regenerating systems, including as a part of the economy.
Thank you so much, Denise. This is excellent. We out of time now, and people need to go to other things. But I have a final question for you, Fernanda, because it's also so important. Denise just related to overall goals of the COP, and we know how important it is long-term financing for the goals of Target 3, particularly of the so-called 30 by 30 initiative, for this large definition of protected areas. The ASL has recently published a study, Valerie mentioned in the beginning, and also mentioned in the presentation, on the finance for permanence. And could you send a message to us, from the experience of FUNBIO in running the transition fund, this mechanism for long-term? What do you think are the main elements of building such a strategy for long-term financing that you have so much mastered at FUNBIO?
I think the ARPA's Transition Fund, basically, it's a long-term, 25-year sinking fund that pools resources from all the donors into a single fund that allow us to work on a scale, both temporal, so we're looking at the long term, we can plan, we can look ahead and work towards the goal of creating and consolidating the protected areas. It also allows us to work at the spatial scale that we do, because we optimize all processes and all the operational side. But when you look at it over time, I think one of the co-benefits that are associated with, this strategy for consolidating protected areas is that as you are in the process, running on target, you start to be able to look beyond. In the same manner that ARPA protected areas act as anchors to the ASL, and one aspect that I didn't mention and that I should, ASL, the first part of it talks about connecting people. ARPA is made of people. You have the local communities, you have protected area management managers, protected area management agencies. So we are now able to start looking beyond. Adriana mentioned the recent visit that we did to Tapajós Arapiuns Extractive Reserve last July. I had the privilege to go on that visit with a number of outstanding conservationists as well as Gustavo. And it was incredible to see, a vision developing, going beyond. There's 15,000 people living there, and the protected area is consolidated. Now we need to look beyond. We need to share experiences from other countries in terms of how do you develop other opportunities, work with the communities, bioeconomy, bringing in the business to generate income while preserving natural resources in the forest. So I think, to me, that's perhaps, the greatest benefit. We're now able to look beyond over the long term to the future that we would like to see, for the benefit of all. That's it.
Thank you so much. I'd like to ask for a round of applause for our incredible panel of Amazonidas. and with that, we'll close. But I think we will have opportunity to mingle and engage with. This is an informal environment that we have here, and please feel free to come and ask questions. Thank you so much for your presence, your engagement, and interest in our panel. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon. Thank you. Let's have a picture. Come, Paul. You may need you, Paul.